Well, hello everybody. My name is Petunia. I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Petunia and Uniqua Talks. My name is Petunia. I know we haven't recorded in so long. We just gotten so busy in life. We got so busy doing all types of things, and life got in the way, and things happening, with my family and Uniqua's family and stuff like that. Even the girls. But I'm here today to let you know that we haven't gone anywhere. We want to wish you guys a happy new year. We made it to 2025 by the grace of God, and we're giving God thanks for what He has done and what He is going to be doing in the future. So, the ladies are not up here yet because we're gonna discuss like a few things for this episode. So in the beginning of this episode, of course, we're gonna talk about school stuff, and then after a while, we're gonna talk about stuff that's going on with our church. We're gonna talk about some events like that has been happening. Like, because I know we had events where we did a beach worship, like a little day of worship on the beach, day of prayer on the beach, stuff like that. And then after that, we went into the holiday season, like we went into Halloween, went into Thanksgiving, went into Christmas, stuff like that, and the New Year's. So we're definitely going to talk about all of those events and what we're going to be talking about in the upcoming events that we're going to be having here at our church, Kingdom Impact Church, And we're going to talk about, Brian's kids. We're going to talk about Linus and Daniel and Brian Jr. and all them. We're still going to talk about their school, because that's the first. That's like a little bit of the first thing we're going to talk about. Some of the stuff that's been going on in the years with schooling, because we seem to get a little bit more buzz about the school stuff while getting the buzz about the church stuff. So we'll definitely continue to keep you in the loop, and we'll know everything. All right. So let me bring up the ladies. So let us have a nice little chat. All right, you guys. So we are here now with the ladies. They're right over here, right next to me. So let us have a little chat. Let me turn off the light. Let's go to the ladies. Say hello to the ladies. So say hi, Geraldine. Hi, Angela. Hi, Kidney. And hi, Peyton. Hello. Heidi, hi. Hello, everybody. Greetings, everybody, in the name of the Lord. We haven't actually gotten live on here in like a while. So I'm actually glad that we're back on live, actually recording and stuff like that. So, guys, like always, you guys have the floor. And y'all guys have fun. I'm going to go sit over here. Y'all turn out the lights.
Yo, there's a drinking.
Sweet ladies. So let us have a nice little conversation. Alright, ladies, we are back in action. I am so glad to be back here recording with you guys on the show. We have been gone for so long. A lot of things have been happening. A lot of things have been transpiring, just changing, just elevating, just positioning us to do great things that God has set before us. I am grateful that we are back in action. Same here. I'm so glad to be back. A lot of things has been going on. Great things have been happening. So we've been, taking a little quick hiatus, but we are back. We're going to talk about things that are going on with school stuff. We'll talk about more of those MaST school memories, and we're definitely going to talk about church stuff, because we haven't talked about Halloween, we haven't talked about Thanksgiving, we haven't talked about Christmas, and we haven't talked about New Year's. So we're definitely going to talk about those things that have been going on around the holiday season, especially what we've been doing at our church. Because every year at our church, Kingdom Impact Church, we always do something different. We do something different around like the holidays come around. So, because I remember last year, like back in 2023, we did a Christmas concert. We did a nice Christmas concert like for our Christmas time. But this year, we didn't have a traditional Christmas concert. We just did like Christmas services. We did like Christmas experiences. Some of us actually went to like different services around, like, let's say like some in West Philly and Camden and Trenton, and we went to different Christmas experiences there, and they invited like some of us to come and sing, some of us did some things, and ministered and stuff like that. I had a wonderful time on the holidays. So we're gonna get to talking about the holiday season stuff with Kingdom Red Church in a little while. But before we do that, let's get ready to talk about some stuff going on with MaST Community's Charter School. So MaST Community Charter School right here. Remember we left off from talking about a memory where you, Geraldine, actually went to the school. So I'm gonna let you be the leader of that discussion. Absolutely. So with me and Sanovia, we went to the school to go pick up Linus. We went to go pick up Daniel. Just just chill out with them because me and Sanovia at the time when she was going to Little Flower. She actually transferred out of Little Flower, so she didn't actually stay there for a while. I forgot to mention that she didn't stay there after I think it was after 9th or 10th grade. It was one of them. She didn't stay after that. She ended up transferring back into MaST Community Charter School because she did miss the school. She was sad that she left, and she left all of her friends behind, and she was actually sad. She missed all her friends, so she decided to come back. So what, I'm gonna join my friends again, and I'm coming home. And I would have been like, that is that's a thing that's good for the it was for the best. Why did she leave Little Flower? Little Flower, I think it had it was a Catholic school, and she wasn't really fitting in that school like that. She said she wasn't really cut out for an all girls environment because she has feelings for guys, like she has feelings for boys. So it was really hard to share feelings, especially if she had a crush on somebody. She can't share it with girls because she doesn't like girls. She doesn't like girls at all. So she couldn't express her feelings about some boys that was in school. The only things that she would have pretty much shared was that some of her friends had crushes on the male teachers, but that's disgusting, my opinion. Like, if I was a student in school, I would never have a crush on my male teachers. That's just disgusting. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. That's weird. Yeah, in my opinion, that's really weird. So she decided to say, what, she missed all of her friends anyway, so she decided to say, what, I'm going back to my home school. She came back to where she, finished. She finished that MaST Community Charter School, and she had a wonderful time, at that school. Nyla, she ended up going to Girls High, but she liked Girls High. She liked Girls High. She dressed up in all white for her graduation. It was pretty. She was real pretty. So she wore her, all white attire for her graduation. And Sanovia, she wore blue attire. The school wore blue attire for their graduation. Well, she pretty much had a wonderful experience back at MaST. She came back to see all her friends, and they rekindled. They reconciled. They came back together as one large group. And they always kicking it with each other. She had a good time. I think she also felt more secure because she was actually there with Linus and Daniel and Brian Jr. and she was in that school with them, so she pretty much felt more secure if anything was to happen. I get that too. She felt more secure when she was at Little Flower as well, because she lives with her brothers, so they all keep watching her and stuff and make sure she's okay and make sure they actually protect her at all costs. The things about that is the thing about that is they were in grades above her, so at least she, some of the underclassmen, they knew about Linus, they knew about Daniel, they knew about Brian Jr. They knew about Brian Jr. as well because he used to do the football team. He used to do the football team, and he used to be, I think he was an instrumentalist. He was in this group. It was a modern band. He was in a modern band at the school, so it was almost like a glee club type of rock band type of little school band type of thing, with the drums, the piano, and guitar, stuff like that. He used to be in band. He used to kick with the friends. And I think Daniel, he used to do instrumental music. Like he used to play a violin with the orchestra at the school. He used to do orchestra. He didn't do woodwind. Woodwind, he said that one was actually kind of disgusting because to have the reed piece of the clarinet in your mouth, let it soak in there just to make sure it's well lubricated so you can use that just to play the instrument, that is disgusting. And I actually agree with them. I love the wood people who are on woodwind, but I would not be a part of woodwind orchestra at all because just to have that piece be lubricated? Yeah, no. Oops, sorry. I would not do that. I would not have that, lubricate like that. That sounds really nasty, so no. Yeah. Like when my brother Bluey used to do a woodwind orchestra when he used to go to school. He came home with his clarinet and he had a reed that he had to place in his mouth. He has to place it in his cheek, let that soak for like a good 5 to 7 minutes, and then take it out and put it inside of the instrument. Yeah, I'm sorry, ew, that's disgusting. Yeah, in my opinion, that is so freaking nasty, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. Can't do that at all. But yeah. Daniel, I think he was on orchestra. Brian Jr. was on the football team, and he did band. Daniel, I know he did a sport too. I think he did like soccer. I think he did like soccer. I know Linus, I think he did like volleyball. He did volleyball, lacrosse. He did like one of them sports for like the season. But no, Brian Jr., he did football, and sometimes he played, basketball as well. He wasn't on the basketball team. He used to just chill in the gymnasium, like him and his friends, like sometimes during their lunch period. Because with their lunch periods at MaST Charter School, especially with the location that they were at, they had a flex. There was a flex period in their lunchtime. The lunchtime is their flex period, so. After they eat their food, it's like a little bell that rings in between that. So it's like a little. I can't describe it because Chloe, my friend Chloe, she's more into those sound stuff. She loves like audio, so she's like an audiophile. She loves sound of bells, the sound of elevator dings. She loves stuff like that. She's like an audiophile, so she would know about like pretty much how it sounded, But with that though, it was like a miniature bell that would ring after like in between lunch, and then after that they would go like they were still chilling they were still chilling in the lunchroom, but they will also go to like different areas, like go to student commons. If there's no class going on in the gym, they would definitely go into the gym. They would go to the school store. They would, but they would just relax because the flex period is made for, students to relax. Like to relax and to catch up on studying and just catch up with friends and stuff like that. It's pretty much still the flex period. So during that period, they were, Brian Jr. would definitely go into the gym with a couple of his friends. They would just play basketball. They would just play basketball and just chill. It just depended on the time of the day, because there would be like a physical education gym class. We'll also have like health and stuff like that. So it just depends on that time of day where he had a lunch. It just depended on the time of his lunch. Because during that time, that's where those people would come in. During those times, that's when he would come with his friends to the lunchroom, to the gymnasium. They would, play basketball, with friends and everything like that. Daniel, he would definitely, do his thing and catch up on work, talk to his friends. Linus would definitely do the same thing. Be silly with all of his friends, because, Linus did have a good amount of friends, especially when he came to the school, because he came to that campus in 6th grade. He started off in Byberry for 3rd grade, and then since then, he became friends with a lot of people. A lot of people, liked him. They made friends, stuff like that. when he moved over to the second campus, and that's the one where it was in Mount Airy, the new Northeast campus, the one that we're talking about here. He pretty much, had a lot of friends. He became friends with a lot of people there, especially with some of the friends that transferred from Byberry, because a good amount of them lived in the same neighborhood, so they ended up transferring over to that campus, where they were all over. Excuse me, and they were all over. They were all over the place, neighborhoods. Like they were at Amy Northwest. They was at Wagner Middle School. They was at Theodore Roosevelt Middle School. So it was like all those grades was like scattered in multiple buildings until they got their own. Even in Leeds, they was in Leeds. They was in Amy Northwest. There was at Theodore Roosevelt, and the other 11, 12th graders was at Wagner. So there was like all over the place in that school. But until they actually secured John L. Kinsey's building. And when they secured John L. Kinsey's building, that's when it was on the brink of closing down anyway. So MaST pretty much, saved it. But the K through 5th graders, the people who are in those grades, they didn't stay at that school because they had to transfer out when they closed down. But a couple of them actually applied to MaST just so they can stay in that building, because some actually liked, staying in that building. So they wanted to just be a part of the school that was going to be in there. But no, he had a lot of friends. So during the flex period, Linus would be real silly with his friends, chat it up, talk to them. He has a lot of Snapchat stories saved. Like him and his friends have a lot of Snapchat stories like saved up from from high school, and then sometimes they would watch them and just reminisce on some of the memories that they've had. Just talk about everything that was going on in that school. Even some of the people, I've seen some of the pictures. Some of them girls took the phone and actually did some Snapchat pictures on there, quote unquote hacking the phones. And I ain't gonna lie, when I was in high school, I used to do that to my boyfriend. When I used to when me and this boy used to go out, that's when I would take his phone and I would just snap pictures from his girlfriend hacking his page. Go ahead and add me here on Snapchat. Go ahead and add me on Instagram, because that's when Instagram started doing stories. Just to copy off of a Snapchat at the time. They came up with their own stories. I was there when Snapchat did stories, and that's when Snapchat was live. And then when Instagram came up with stories, that's when everybody started posting on there. But Linus pretty much, had memories of Snapchat, had memories of the Instagram stories, stuff like that, and then they all compiled it into one big, it was save files, save fighters. They all just reminisce and just had old fun and stuff like that. I've seen the before and after shots where Linus look right now, and then how he looked when he was in high school. He does look the same. But in my opinion, he did not have a lot of the facial hair that he has now. He looks a lot like Brian so much. That's Brian's twin. But Linus now has a full, not a full grown beard, but he has this own lineup for his beard and stuff like that, and mustache. He had that during high school, but it wasn't as prevalent. It wasn't as how it is now. It was developing still, he was because he developed his facial hair kind of early, and then he still looks the same. He just had a little bit of a tiny more higher pitched voice, but he's still the same. Because usually when you're in high school, you don't really change so much, but you still change though, over your years, because you're coming out of middle school. So you start to look a little more different when you're going through puberty and stuff like that. That's pretty much how that looks.
She's a monster then. She loves the beard.
But yeah, but back to that little thing. So they would have their little flex period. They just go and hang out, go to the media center, go to the commons and chill, like just do whatever, just stay out of trouble. And then, Linus would be real silly with his friends, stuff like that. And I've seen some of the posts that he made on Instagram stories and, the Snapchat stories of them just having a really good old time in the commons. In the commons, also in the media center and stuff like that. I get you. But yeah, but we had a lot of memories. But no, going up in the years, I actually have a copy of what Linus' schedule was because he shared with me the 8 periods that he had in his school. In his 9th grade year, this is his 9th grade courses right here. He had Modern World History honors. He had Algebra 2 because he took Algebra 1 honors in 8th grade because he was really good at math. Because in his 7th grade year, they was like, oh, he's doing very, very good in his math. So they was like, how about he takes a math test, specialized math test, to see if he can take Algebra 1 in 8th grade. And then he passed the test. He took Algebra 1 honors in 8th grade, just so they could challenge him a little more. But he passed that, and now he's taking Algebra 2, and now after that he took Geometry, and then he went into Pre-Calculus. Pre-Calculus is I know Pre-Calculus is a honors class in that school, but it's an honors class if you are in 11th grade. If you are in 11th grade, that is an honors class. Regular pre-calculus is for 12th grade students. To challenge the students' intellect, it is an honors class if you take that in 11th grade. But he passed that, and he took AP Calculus in 12th grade. He was so glad he got out of that class in 12th grade because that class, he said, that class was really interesting. He said it was interesting, but he passed it. He passed it with a 94. Passed AP Calculus with a 94, and then he passed the test, so he got some college credit. But no, 9th grade, he took his Algebra 2, the freshman seminar, physical ed, because that physical ed and health credit is satisfied as one. So freshman seminar was a 1-semester course. I think it was a 1-semester course. I think it was a full year. I'm not entirely too sure. But that class, was definitely continuous. So he had to take that in his freshman year. And then his lunch period for 4th period. The ones that have those little squiggly lines, those are his yes, in that period, that's my lunch period, but those little squiggly lines, it talks about those electives that he took. Some of those electives are 1 year, and some of those electives are semesters. So we didn't place those down as of yet. We'll talk about those later on down the line. The next year, he took a language. He wanted to take Italian. He learned Spanish in middle school, and he said French was too hard. He said French is too hard, so he didn't want to learn French. He wanted to learn Italian. He wanted to go more on the easier route at that time. So he took Italian 1. He loved the Italian class, and it was actually at the time you said a good amount of his class wanted to take Italian. Some 2 classes, I think 2 classes took Italian. 1 class took Japanese, and a really small handful took Chinese. So the Chinese class was full of, it had 17 kids in there. It was not that many. But Italian, he took that, and he said he loved Italian. It says almost like Spanish, but it's way more, it's more romantic. It's more romantic language. He liked it. And then his next class took geometry honors. He loved geometry because he said it's like all about the math of geometry is more visual. And then the third period, that is an elective that we didn't put down yet. He took English 2 honors. There was an actually interesting class because some people who are in this English 2 honors class, some went to new media, and then some people who are in that classroom actually looks just like the classroom that class was held in looked just like a classroom in new media, but it just had windows. Like the class just had windows on the side, but it was a little bit of a big classroom, and it had windows. One in the media didn't have any windows, but the class that he was in for English 2 honors, it looked like a new media classroom. It had windows. So yeah. After that, he had a lunch period, flex period, and after that was another elective, and then he took African American history honors. In his grade, it was only 2 periods of African American history honors. It was, I think, first period and second period, because those 2 were the same teacher, but that teacher had one regular African American history class, but the other 2 were honors, and then everybody else was in another period. So when they were like discussing like work, when they were discussing like work from the class, one of those classes, stuff like that, he was saying that the class that he was in, it was done by a different teacher, and then that one African American history class, the regular African American history class that teacher had, it was same set of coursework, but for the honors class, it was more accelerated. So they had a little bit of a different curriculum. They had a little bit of a different curriculum at that time. But the other African American history classes, they were held by one more teacher who was just a regular white guy who was talking about, like, I think he was saying, for example, the O.J. Simpson case. That I don't know how in relation that happens to African American history, but it was just something that they came into the curriculum they wanted to talk about it. They did an independent study with that type of O.J. Simpson case, and they watched the movie. They watched it in the African American history honors class, but they did independent studies on that for the honors class. For the regular classes, they didn't do a regular study. They just did in-class discussions. They still did the in-class discussions when he was in honors African American history, but it was really more in-depth. The teacher wanted them to go more in-depth about what they were talking about. And then in honors class, it was taught by like a black teacher. There was a black teacher that taught that class. In 9th grade, the Modern World History honors class and the English 1 honors class was taught by the same exact teacher. They just saw them for like different periods. That was his only English 1 honors class. But he taught Modern World History, and he also had that 1 honors class. We had that 1 Modern World History honors, and we also had the English 1 honors. But the other periods were World History, because he taught World History, and he also taught AP World History for, I think, 12th graders, 11th and 12th graders, because that class is mixed. And then after African American History honors class in 10th grade, that's when he had Chemistry honors for 8th period. He did like the chemistry class, because again, that class was in a classroom that looked just like a classroom in new media, where it was up on another floor and it had windows. So it was a little bit different. Some of the new media kids, they said it was really different, but at the same time, they still loved it because they saw that the school was bigger. The school they were in, like when they transferred to MaST, most of them transferred to MaST, that it was bigger, so it was more opportunities, more electives, more things to do, more stuff to do, and they actually care about the students. Like the staff actually care about the students. They love it all. And some kids from Imhotep actually went to that school at that time too. So it was a wide mix. A little wide mix of curriculum, but that's okay. Very interesting stuff. During that year, I know because there was not really much petitioning at the time, but Linus told me a memory between him and his friends that they wanted to take AP Art History for 11th grade because at that time, and if I bring up the chart, AP Art History wasn't really an option for 11th graders at the time. There was an option only for 12th graders. But for 11th grade, if you didn't take an honors class, you would take U.S. History or you would take International Studies. If you went to more of the honors or AP electives, you would went to AP U.S. History, you would take AP World History, you would take AP European History at that time. But AP Art History was not an option. So it was some people in his class, like, Linus, his friend Cheney, his friend Mark, his friend Isaac, his friend Chloe, like my friend Chloe, like they're all friends. Giselle, Jahari, it was a girl named Sheree, it was just a few people, and a couple people that went to New Media that wanted to take that class as well. So they some of them weren't in the honors African American history class, but they wanted to take art history. So Linus was cool with all of them. Was cool with most of them. So what him and his friends did, they decided to come up with a petition to have kids who are interested, who were at the time interested in taking AP Art History for 11th grade. They came up with a petition, they all signed a petition, and all the people who signed that petition, they got it approved, and the people who signed that petition became one class. It was one AP Art History class just for juniors, but the rest of them were only seniors. At that time, I think Daniel, when he was in senior year, I think he took AP Art History or AP World History. It's something up there. He took an AP class, but I don't know if it was art history. I have to ask him. Yeah. I don't know if it was art history because he said he took. Oh, I know what he took. He took AP U.S. Government. He took AP Government and Politics. Yep, he took AP U.S. Government Politics. He liked that class. He said it was a lot of writing, but he still liked it. But no, Linus and his friends came up with a petition, had a signature of 35 people meeting at capacity to create one class for AP Art History. They got it approved by the counselor. The counselor was actually ready to hear what the students wanted and the feedback that they provided. And then they came up with the next year they came up with the class. But at the end of the school year, though, it was a meeting. It was an interest meeting for those to sign a petition. So once they signed a petition, they assigned their school email, and then they got an email in the school email saying the interest meeting for AP Art History will be held in room so and so. They all gathered in that room, and then they all got a chance to see each other. There was a good amount of seniors, but it was a good amount of people who were like sophomores at the time. There was a good amount of people who became juniors. So Linus and his friends, Cheney, Mark, and Jahari, and Isaiah, they all became part of that class, and they were happy to see all the people who were actually interested. It was actually a couple of New Media kids. It was a couple of them, a couple of Imhotep kids at that time. Then it was a good amount of other people. It was a good mixed class. So the teacher, who loves teaching art history, she loves teaching art history like to the seniors. It grabbed the attention of the juniors that they wanted to take the class. That same teacher was actually one of the teachers who taught African American history. It was actually it wasn't the same teacher who did African American history honors. She had an honors African American history class before, but she mostly taught, at that time, she mostly taught African American history, the regular African American history. Some of them didn't mind taking her again for APR history, but she was actually happy because she actually saw that they wanted to, step up to the plate and actually, take on a little more of a heavier course or go more in depth in their learning. And then she liked it. They went up to her room, and then a lot of the kids, they sat down in the room and they came up for the interest meeting. A good amount of the kids asked questions of like, one kid asked, how heavy is the coursework going to be for 8th history? And she said it was mostly research-based, so they're going to be doing a lot more research based on the units that they study. So they're going to be studying different art pieces, stuff like that. It was like a quick slideshow, an orientation slideshow of what they're going to be learning for 11th grade. And then a couple people asked, what are some of the things we'll be doing, like help us with our, education in class. She said they were taking trips. So she said she likes to take a lot of trips. She likes to take trips to museums, like take trips to, places, to, help with, the students and their learning. And then during that year that they took that class, she took them to New York. They took them to New York to go to one of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. And they had a wonderful time. It was all four of her APR history classes. It was 3 APR history classes for seniors, and it was that one class that was full of juniors. They all went on the trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and visit like 1 or 2 more museums around the area. And they had a blast. They had such a good time. It was fun. He said it was fun. They had a really fun time over there. But no, that was a good turnout, because the one thing I did like about MaST, they love to hear the feedback of the students, what they wanted for, their education. What they wanted just for it to be more suitable and more comfortable for them as they excel in their high school education. And they honor it. Like if a student wants to take a particular course, stuff like that, they'll be based on the grade that they're in. So the options become more broad as you go up. But it was at the time, like, that's when they started, adding in more stuff. Like they added these history classes, history for sports, Philadelphia history. They added courses like that, and I'm like, cool. Even they have an LGBTQ studies, like LGBTQ history class. That's interesting within itself. That, and also women's studies. You don't have to be a woman to take that class, but they teach it. But no. In summary, they had a good time in that AP art history class, because they learned a lot. They got a chance to know a lot more people that they haven't seen, because the classes that they had, like each class was like, I can't think at the top of my head, because at that time it was like at least 5 or 6 different advisories of like each grade. Each grade had like 6 advisories, and we were full like 35 people. It was a lot. It was like a lot of people. So a lot of people equals more opportunities for that. In that part. But no, it was a lot. But yeah, moving on. In 11th grade, Linus took AP Art History in 8th grade. Not 8th grade. 8th period, I'm sorry, that was the last period of the day. They were able to fit that class into the last period of the day. And then the first period was Anatomy and Physiology Honors. Now, him and Daniel were in the same class, because that class was a mix of junior and seniors. That class was full of seniors, and it had like 10 to 15 juniors. Linus is one of the juniors in that time. and he was in the classroom with Daniel, and then Daniel actually introduced him to some of his friends, even though some of his friends already knew him, but they were actually happy to take the class. I think one girl that came into the class, she's like, Daniel, who is that sitting next to you? Aren't you guys related? He said, yeah, me and my lady, that's my brother Linus. And then she's like, oh, come on, give me a hug, sugar. And then she was like, you know, the grandmom. And I was like, oh, even he told me about that, she was like, when he told me that, he said she was like giving that grandma vibe, like, oh, come here, sugar, give me a hug. And then it was all silly. But no, it was good. He took that class in the first period. The second period was pre-calculus honors. That class was specifically for juniors because it was one honors pre-calculus class for juniors. So they took that class. It was like 30 people in there. And then after that, we took AP calculus in the next year. That same class took AP calculus in the next year. In the third period, it was elective. Fourth period, it was Italian 2. The fifth period was lunch. It was a flex. After that, it was a elective. After that, it was AP English language, and then after that, it was AP Art History. So that's how that goes. It was like 2 AP English language classes at the time, but in 12th grade, I think it was 1 AP Lit course. I think it was 1 or 2. I'm not entirely too sure. I think it was 1 or 2. I'm not sure. I'll have to check on that. But that was that coursework for 11th grade. Did go on that trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Definitely enjoyed himself. Him and his friends had a wonderful time. And then here comes the senior year. Now, the school itself really goes all out for the seniors, because the one thing that this school takes pride in is to make sure that the students go out with a bang. Like, they're completing their final year in school, they're about to leave and go out into the real world. The school did a lot just to make sure that the seniors at the school were going to be remembered, this would be like the best year for them ever. Like, for example, they did a lot of senior-specific events. There was a lot of senior-specific entities done. Like, the seniors got to dress down like once every month. Like, one Friday out of each month they dressed down. They had a senior ring ceremony. They did take your senior photos. Graduation practice, stuff like that. A big giant class photo for all seniors, stuff like that. And then they did a lot of stuff, especially for the seniors. For senior memorabilia, they did the yearbook. They gave a class hoodie. They had a class shirt. They had specialized senior pen that they had. They did a senior lock-in. They didn't do a lock-in at the school. It was at the Philadelphia Sports Clubs, which I know that's a fun place, because I know at our church, when it was St. James, the youth used to do a lock-in over there at the Philadelphia Sports Club, so I definitely know exactly what they're talking about. But when they had it with the school, so it was real fun. And girls had a lot of seniors. They had a senior lunch. It was senior breakfast? No, senior lunch. It was a senior lunch, and then they did graduation. Of course, they went on prom. Of course, for 11th grade, they went on their junior prom. For senior year, they went on their senior prom. And they had the time of their lives when it was senior year. They went on a class trip. They went on a class trip to Disneyland, the Disney World, and they had a ball. They had a ball over there. Then the school did a lot for the seniors. Again, I said again that the school does a lot for the seniors, just to make sure that they remember this whole thing, like the whole senior experience, being a senior in high school. But going on to the coursework, 12th grade, Linus took AP Psychology. He did love that class. Second period was an elective. Third period was a senior seminar. Fourth period was an elective. Fifth period was an AP Calculus class. That's the only, I think it was like the only AP Calculus class. I think it was 2 senior calculus classes at the time for AP. Then it was his lunch. Then it was Italian 3. And then it was AP English Literature. That was an AP English Lit course. He said he liked the class. There was a lot of reading, and it was, definitely a lot of writing. But he loved it, because, we used to do, like, Socratic seminars and stuff like that. And they used to do in-class discussions about what it is that they're studying and what they're reading. It was nice. They did that with AP English Language, and they introduced Socratic seminars in English 2 honors. English 2 to Socratic seminars weren't introduced until like later in the year, but English 2 honors was more focused on their coursework was related to like the Renaissance. So pretty much it was everything that was being taught in AP European history. They were learning those stuff in English 2. Back to senior year. He said it was 2 AP English Literature courses. It was one last period course, and then it was a third period AP English Literature course. No, second period AP English Literature. No, third period. I'm sorry. It was third period AP English Literature, 8th period AP English Literature. They all not were taught by the same teacher. AP English Literature was taught by somebody else. English 4 and English 4 Honors was taught by a different teacher. And then, during that time, it was a full experience for all 4 years of high school, and especially the 3 years before the school that they had. Now, when they all graduated high school, when they were all getting ready to go for graduation practice, all of the seniors was bawling their eyes out. Everybody was crying. It was all sad that they was all graduating, because that school just fostered such a wonderful community full of love, a community full of friendships, full of just relationships, just getting along with everybody, being friendly, being like one big close-knit family. That everybody, once they disbanded, they always gonna miss each other. But as they went on to college, they went on to military, they went on to the career path, and went on to trade school, stuff like that. A lot of people was gonna miss everybody that they met. But that's why it was important for everybody nowadays to get their numbers, to get their Instagrams, to get their social media, so they can all keep in touch. And a lot of them still do, even still to this day. Because Linus was telling me that he just recently hung out with, Cheney and, his little group of friends they was in school with. They all got a chance to hang out and meet up at like a nice restaurant, and they all just catching up on old times and just chilling. Yeah, that's so sweet. I love when schools do that, especially for their kids. Like fostering unity and stuff like that. I love when schools foster that. Let's bring everybody together. It makes it a nice, doable experience. Though a lot of the memories were not always so good, there's always going to be hiccups. It's just part of life. It's going to be hiccups. It's going to be bad moments. It's going to be bad times. But it's just a part of life. It's all a part of life. But no, they all had a wonderful time. That's why once they graduated, Linus said, if I were to go to school all over again, I would keep going to the city, because the school was really good. They did have a uniform. Like, remember I told you before, they had a uniform policy. the uniform policy was technically pretty, direct. So it was like, polo shirt, gray pants, or khaki pants. Any shoes you want. Or you could also do, now if you don't want to do the polo shirt, you can do, a belt, you can do an Oxford button-down shirt, vest and stuff. And students did wear that, and students also wore the polos. And then on Fridays, it was Spirit Days, and also during, like, course of the year, different Spirit Days happen. Like, if you are a part of, student council, you wear a specific type of shirt, like for school spirit day. You can wear like a MaST t-shirt, you can wear a sweatshirt, you can wear a hoodie, you can wear sneakers, you can wear jeans during the Spirit Day, stuff like that. Those kind of things. You wear like a nice you wear a lot of the stuff from the school store. The school store has like a lot to sell for their kids. Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, it was like a tradition. And during the year, like if it was like a holiday, like a Valentine's Day, the students would wear like a color, like the Valentine's Day colors during that day. And the staff would wear colors during that day. The seniors had their own spirit week. One day they wore pajamas. One year they wore different shades of blue. One day they repped their college shirts where they're going to go to a college t-shirt, and the pajamas. Pajamas one was funny because I seen it on the page. I remember Cheney shared it because I'm friends with Cheney on Facebook, and he shared the memory of all of him and his friends wearing pajamas during the senior year, and it was fun. I remember during that senior day, the pajamas, they had a nice s'mores, and they watched a movie in the class. Like, it was right before they left for winter break. They had a nice pajama day where they wore pajamas and they ate s'mores and stuff like that, and they watched the movies and like some of the classes that weren't really going out. It was pretty fun. They said it was really fun. Yeah, there was a day they wore a sports theme thing. I think it was something else. I forgot what it was. But the pajama one, they said it was. But no, they had a good old. They said they all had a wonderful time, especially in their senior year. In their senior year, they had a wonderful time. They still have a lot of shirts. They got the class. It was like class shirts. 3 different designs of the class shirts though. It was like class 2018 seniors. 3 different designs, and they had the whole entire class on the back. There was a whole bunch of people on the back of the shirt, and then even on the back of the hoodie, they had a lot of students that went there. But yeah, and they had, I do a lot of stuff there. Every year, if the kids went on honor roll, they did like an honor roll breakfast or lunch. They did something like that for each of the students there. So that was another thing. They're internally different kids, good behavior, and also good grades as well. And they recognize it. But yes, listen, schools like that are different. Especially if that school is technology-based. MaST is a technology-based school, extreme. So science, technology, robotics, engineering, arts, and math. So that is their curriculum. They had opportunities in their high school career for them to do different majors. They had one major when they did medical science, did the medical stuff like, nursing, engineering, medical engineering, food science. That's not a major, but I was a part of like one of the coursework. They did like medical stuff. The other major was engineering, so they did like engineering, robotics, math. The class was called stream. That's an elective. They did like some majors like culinary arts. They did majors into the arts, like they did like fine arts, like the dancing, the singing, the acting, the film stuff, and sculpture and stuff like that. They did stuff like that with part of the arts. They had that as a major. Music was a major. They had dancing, that was a major. So it was like a complete split of like different majors and pathways that the students could take if they wish. Man, I think that was pretty fun. Interesting. Yeah, it was all a really interesting curriculum. But they always had wonderful memories at that school. And they're going to hold on to them forever. Yes. So in this episode, we pretty much talked a lot about the school stuff. So in the next episode, we're going to be talking about the church stuff, like everything that happened from Thanksgiving, Halloween, Christmas, New Year's, and stuff that's happening right now. We're going to keep you guys updated with that pretty much coming soon. But for now, we're going to end off the episode right here as we talked about, stuff that happened from the schools. So I hope you like this episode. We hope you like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So, my name is Geraldine. My name's Pinky. I'm Angela. And I'm Kimmy. Thanks for watching our show. Have a good night.